Now it's time for our main event. Felix Trinidad against Bernard Hopkins. It was September 18th, 1999 when Trinidad in the welterweight division of 147 pounds won a majority decision over Oscar De La Hoya. Can he now defeat Bernard Hopkins, a middleweight champ with 13 title defenses? We'll see coming right up. In attendance tonight, 14 firefighters from Engine 10 here in Manhattan, located across the street from where the South Tower of the World Trade Center once stood. Some of these firemen were actually inside the building when it collapsed. They've worked tirelessly around the clock. Tonight, these heroes get their first night out, and earlier when they arrived, the crowd here at Madison Square Garden gave them a standing ovation.
Overwhelmingly pro-Trinidad crowd trying to lift their man. Hopkins just keeps pounding away. Oh, huge right hand. Huge right hand by Hopkins. Down goes Trinidad. I'm not sure Tito can get up. He's got the desire. He's never been knocked out. This fight is over. Steve Smoker stops it. He knocked out Trinidad.
There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Saturday, September 29th. There's no tomorrow. Only right now. Only today. There you had it. Today, 23 years ago, Tito Trinidad and Bernard Hopkins hooked up in Madison Square Garden. Bernard Hopkins had a dominant 12th round knockout. We can talk about that for a little while. Jump on here for about an hour. You know, it was kind of a slow weekend. Not much happened yesterday. We had a lot of fights on Friday. Michaela Mayer, Xander Zayas, Shushu Carrington were all fighting. You know, a lot of people talk about Devin Haney and lawsuits. Why not talk about a fight, an actual fight that happened, an epic fight in the great career of Bernard Hopkins? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Talk about what's coming up. I got a little Oscar clapback. I only watched parts of Oscar's clapback, so I'm going to play it. Hopefully it was good. I don't know how that was, but it's always good to talk boxing. And again, I love the history of the sport. And it's 23 years to the day that Bernard Hopkins had a 12th round knockout of Tito Trinidad to become, I think he became undisputed. There might have been one other belt out there, but it was a unification, and Bernard Hopkins really shocked a lot of people with the upset. He was a huge underdog in that fight with the upset of Tito. So H Money, my man, Tito Trinidad versus Bernard Hopkins was an epic war. It really was a beatdown. What's up, Sid? Sid says Trinidad was a massive favorite coming into the fight. He sure was. He was a huge favorite. That Trinidad Hopkins fight is one I talk about where when a fighter's A game isn't working, they need to do something else. And Tito, for as great as he was, he could never do anything else. Remember what Bernard did to him? A few years later, what Winky Wright did to him with the jab, pretty much jabs and 1-2s, and he dominated. Sid White, yes, I can't wait. We got a little, what do we got? 2 weeks? 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks. 13 days, so it's less than 2 weeks. My man Skywalker, I see you in the country box stuff. Doc, can we rock? What's up, Doc? My man Doc. So talking a little Hopkins Trinidad, and I'll put the link in there because I was one of many. I didn't lose anyone that I knew in September 11th, but I was in the city. I was working for HBO when that happened. Was coming from Jersey, and when I went into the tunnel, the towers were still up. By the time I came out of the tunnel, one of the towers had been hit, and we all know the story. George Eor, what's up, brother? We all know the story. So I was stuck in the city because that day they shut the city down. So you couldn't leave. I couldn't go back to Jersey. Couldn't go back home to my family. So yeah, you remember that? Yeah, okay. Fushnikins. That was Shaq and Fushnikins. That's who that was. TBR, George, what's up? The executioner was the underdog and set himself up to be the bad guy. Listen, There's no doubt. I'm gonna get to that. Let me write that down so I don't remember. And we'll talk about. I wish I had the footage of what he did. But this fight was originally supposed to be on September 15th, which was the week of 9/11. It got pushed back 2 weeks. I did not go to the fight. I was home. I did not have to work that fight. But a huge underdog. And talk about the mind games that Hopkins played. At, I believe, 2 of the press conferences, he took the Puerto Rican flag and threw it down. And Hopkins did that in Puerto Rico, which was insane. Threw it down. He was hopping over fences. He did the same thing in New York, too. Took the flag and threw it down. So he was playing mind games with Trinidad. Trinidad wasn't afraid of him. But again, Trinidad just could not. It's not easy when plan A isn't working and that's all you know how to do, or maybe you don't have the belief in yourself that you can do anything else, or you just believe in yourself too much that you think eventually I'm going to catch him. And Tito, just the 2 prime examples were Trinidad and Winky Wright, and even Oscar in their fight, Oscar's fight with Tito. After like 8 or 9 rounds, I thought he was winning the fight pretty easy. He was outboxing Tito, and then he did what he did. Sid White, B-Hop, almost got lynched. That was crazy. And he said he did it with a plan. He said he did it to have him mad. And I don't know if Tito fought mad, but Bernard wasn't afraid of anything. But it was 23 years ago, which is crazy that fight happened. It was a 12th round knockout. I was in the Garden when Trinidad beat William Joppy, and he destroyed Joppy, and it was like a homecoming because the Puerto Rican fans were out, and I was a Hopkins fan, like Hopkins. I was a Trinidad fan. I was a Hopkins fan too. You couldn't help but like Tito, man. The fans loved him. So he walked into this ring a huge favorite. I don't know what the odds were. Huge favorite in this fight. And he was outboxed, outbrawled, outfought every single round. I mean, it wasn't even close. But I'm going to play another thing real quick. I'm going to play the last round. If anybody remembers, HBO did a series called Legendary Nights. It's where they picked 10 of the best fights ever on HBO and did 30-minute docs on them. Hopkins Trinidad was supposed to be in that, but we could not do it because Don King would not negotiate the footage that he had. So never got to bring that fight the justice that it deserves, because I think a lot of these fights deserve docs. They 100% deserve docs. TBR says, yup, people ready to kill B-Hop. The mind games worked. I mean, kill. It was crazy. The boxing scholar. Man, it's about time we see your face. I saw you on your live. It's about time. Working out yesterday. Shout out to Dr. Boxing. He bought all my furniture. That was classic. My man, boxing scholar. Scholar, I know you saw this fight, but I'm going to play the last round. And remember, it went 12, and it was just a clinic that Bernard Hopkins put on when nobody thought he could do it. And very few people thought he could do it. Trinidad was on such a roll. He was 40-0, 33 knockouts. So he had never lost. The closest he came to losing was that Oscar fight. He was just destroying people at 154, then at 160. He was like a machine when he moved up from 147. So let's go back to September 29th, 2001, which is insane. September 29th, 2001. This is the end of round 11, going into the final round of Tito Trinidad versus Bernard Hopkins for the middleweight championship of the world.
Looking good, son. You can't stay there now. Last round coming up, you got to close. You got to close big, all right? Close big. Last round.
Last round, baby.
Hello.
Hey, look. Soldier, do what you do. Pop that check.
Let me clean his nose. Let me clean his nose. This is the last round. How you feeling, Tito? How you feeling? I'm okay. You gotta use that jab when you come in. Now he's gonna come after you now. So you,
Y pelea dentro de con cámara cuando te hice my back.
Get his back.
Get my back. Get my back. With the water, boy. You on? You got it on, baby. It's in the computer.
By CompuBox numbers, Tito Trinidad threw only 14 punches in the 11th round. He looked like a fighter with very little left in the tank. Now let's see what he's got for what might be the last-ditch round of his career. Harold, how do you have it coming to the 12th?
Hopkins 108, 101, 9 rounds to 2. Bernard Hopkins. I only gave Tito Trinidad rounds 1 and 6. All the rest to Bernard Hopkins.
Man, blowout.
Beautifully from the outside.
Get out.
Hopkins better go for safety and get a knockout. You just can't trust judges.
Well, Hopkins still wants to fight. He's not sitting on his lead. He's seen somebody try to do that against Trinidad without success. Hopkins imposing his will and his skill on the man who is tonight the lesser fighter.
What a great Lampley line right there.
Trinidad continues to come.
He'll never quit. He'll never stop coming.
No retreat.
Oh, huge right hand. Huge right hand by Hopkins. Down goes Trinidad. I'm not sure Tito can get up. He's got the desire. He's never been knocked out. This fight is over. Steve Smoker stops it. No.
Bernard
Tito Trinidad comes in.
has done it.
He knocked out Trinidad.
Bernard Hopkins has put himself up there in the list of all the great middleweights. His 14th consecutive defense of his title. Trinidad, a beaten man. He was beaten boxing, and then he was beaten physically. He was beaten with the smarts of Bernard Hopkins. He was beaten with the heart of Bernard Hopkins. What a performance. Thank you very much, Jim. Bernard Hopkins is telling people, I'm not great yet, but I will be. At 36, he still thinks he has time to get better. Bernard, why were you able to master a fighter who was considered so devastating?
Well, first, Larry, I'd like to thank HBO, all the people. I'd like to thank my advisor and my friend, Lou DiBella, for giving me the opportunity not to take the bad rap that was on Bernard Hopkins. And I'd like to thank you for being not biased, but being truthful, and everybody at HBO. Larry, I'd like to first, hope that the troops and things work out okay. With America, USA is strong. We will knock anybody out that try to go against us. Larry, I train hard for this fight. I always have a good soundbite to give everyone. I'm not a dull guy, but I wanted to show my greatness, and I believe I came halfway doing that.
Was there a little misdirection in you indicating that you were just going to try to dive into him and smother him when you knew all along that you felt that you could show the skills to outbox him that people didn't think you had?
Yes, Larry. One thing I knew, and I mentioned it all through the media, I said, once Trinidad find out he can't hurt me, the fight's over. Larry, I got one of the Philadelphia chins, iron chins, but I just happen to have skills with it. But I knew, Larry, that if I take my time, set my shots up, as long as the fight comes, the more pain that I was going to put on Trinidad. I just like to thank HBO for giving me the opportunity. And I just thank you for saying the good things about me when I do good. I ain't gonna let you talk.
How were you able to avoid his potent left hand?
Well, Larry, you take the best weapons from the guy that they're using against you. If the guy has a gun, you get to the gun. You don't run from it because you got a better chance on smothering or got a better chance on getting to the gun. I had to take his left hand away from him, smother his shots, and keep my defense up, a good defense. But I do have a good defense just as well as an offense. Trinidad is a left hook guy. That's all he had. And I've been watching him for years. Once I took his left hook away, and every time he set up, I watched his leg and his feet, and I knew to move to the opposite way.
All right, let's take a look at the last round at the knockout. Now, you knew he was weakening from several rounds before this, right?
Yes, I knew right about the fourth round when I knew I hit him with a good counter right hook, and he sort of dazed and he said, ugh, and I wanted to follow up, but not follow up recklessly because I know he's, he got a piece and dish in the left hook, but he never hurt me, Larry. I mean it. He never hurt me. No shape, form in this fight.
All right, so in the last couple of rounds, you were fighting with more abandon and then the control you were fighting in before.
Yes, I was doing just that. Larry, I don't know what you're going to do after this fight, this interview stuff, but you ought to be a trainer in the corner because, you got the blueprint on Bernard Hopkins and you read it well. Exactly. Just what you said is what I was doing.
God bless the fire department.
God bless the fire department in Philadelphia, the police, Philadelphia, all around the world. Larry, they are the Warriors. I'm serious.
What does it mean to you now to have
in Philadelphia
tied Carlos Monzon's middleweight record of 14 consecutive defenses?
It's great, Larry. It's history. But I want to be judged by my peers, not by me reading my own articles. I think when it's all done, Bernard Hopkins will be known as one of the greatest middleweights that came along at all times. I don't want to say that. I want the world and the public to judge me, and I can live with whatever they come up with. But in my heart, I knew that I would get another chance in life to redeem myself from what I used to be into what I am now. I can show example not only for boxing, but for people in general. Larry, I am the American dream. I am the American story.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Congratulations
Larry,
again.
as always, you're looking younger, not older.
So do you. Jim?
Man, look at that. That was Jim Lampley, George Foreman, and Larry Merchant. And I spent a lot of time with Larry and Jim. Couple things. Steve Smoger, someone put in the quotes that he was a great ref. I thought he was. He would let fights go. Some people thought he should have stopped some fights earlier than he should have. But how is Brother Nazim and Bowie Fisher in Bernard's corner? I got to meet both and interviewed Brother Nazim before. They just good people and just knew so much about boxing and just being able to talk to those guys. I sat and spoke after shooting with Shane Mosley before he fought Antonio Margarito. And I sat and spoke with him and Brother Nazim, not on camera, just talking about the Margarito fight. And they told me exactly what they were going to do. Now, they didn't know that Margarito was a cheater and he was going to get caught cheating. But, man, did he know boxing. And he was a great corner man, boxing scholar. Yeah, I mean, B-Hop and Larry had their run-ins. Larry had a lot of run-ins with people. Larry was a legend. A lot of people criticize Larry, and it's all subjective. I mean, people have their opinions. Larry did love what he did. Yeah, he had an ego, but I don't know. Jim, Larry, and George, that was an entertaining team. But listening to Bernard Hopkins, how he broke down Trinidad, he said he knew that if Trinidad couldn't hurt him, he was going to realize he can't beat him. He can't beat me. And just how he talked about how he took the left hook away. He said that's all Tito has was a left hook. And he wasn't wrong. I mean, it was a devastating left hook. I wish I had a left hook like that. I mean, people said Deontay Wilder, all he had was a right hand. I'll take it. I'll take it. So calling someone one-dimensional is one thing, but then doing something about it, that's something else. So he did. To hear him talk about how he took Trinidad's left hook away, and once he did that, it wasn't a close fight. You saw that my friend, the late great Harold Letterman, only gave Trinidad 2 rounds. I don't know what the official scores were, but I remember watching the fight live and being in awe of Hopkins because he was so smart and so strong. You know, some people say he was dirty. Bernard Hopkins was a smart fighter. He was a strong fighter. He was an intelligent fighter. And that was some night. Exactly, Bruce. I was going to say that. Tank said the exact same thing before the Ryan fight, and he was right. But he knew how to combat that. He said all Ryan had was a right. Against most people, that right hand was all he needed. Like with Trinidad. Trinidad was 40-0, 33 knockouts going into the fight. So he didn't need much more than that. Had a good right hand, but his left hook was his bread and butter punch. I want to play Oscar De La Hoya's Thursday night clapback. Not as much fun as it used to be. I feel like he's getting a little too produced on it. It's getting a little bit too. I liked it when it was just kind of Oscar on the fly talking. Now he's got graphics and it looks like he's reading like a script. But after this, I'll put the link in, and I stay on here for about an hour, and we'll talk about Tito Trinidad, because listen, people are talking about Devin Haney and his lawsuit. I just don't care. I don't care. Like, my screenshot for you to get on this wasn't going to be like me like this in a picture of Haney. That's just not how I roll. What is there to talk about with Devin Haney? So what? He's got a lawsuit. I just don't care. I would rather talk about boxing, either a fight that's going to happen or a fight that happened. And as you said, 23 years ago today. And my man Bruce points out, Ali Schaefer's was the same day, 1977. Don't like to look back at that too much. It's hard to watch Ali's the last few years of his career, because he took a lot of punishment, and that's why he turned out the way he did. Doc Box, no, he's using a teleprompter. Yeah. Oh, no, I did not see Eddie Hearn's. I'll have to check that out. It's pretty funny. Dude, bro, he's definitely using a teleprompter. He's 100% using a teleprompter. I mean, you see him like he's like, and then Dana White, what have we got going? I just, George, you have to play Eddie's response to Oscar. It was that good, huh? Where was it at? Was it on YouTube or Instagram? Because I'll look it up and I'll play it after I play Oscar. I got a feeling it was probably on Instagram, right? But it's crazy. So let me know, Giorgio, like, where is that? Where can I find that? Because I'll definitely put it up. But 23 years ago, since that masterful performance by Bernard Hopkins, Bernard Hopkins was my very first. He was the very first fighter I interviewed for HBO. I think it was before his fight with Keith Holmes, which I believe was before the Trinidad fight. I was on Twitter. Okay. I believe it was Keith Holmes. And George Europe, thank you, appreciate it. So I did a feature, an HBO feature on Bernard before he fought Keith Holmes, because he was coming close to Carlos Monzon's middleweight title defense record, and I was a little nervous because it was the first fighter I was interviewing on camera. I didn't know that this is like 25 years ago, maybe. I don't know when it was. But I didn't know how much Bernard could talk. And it was supposed to be like a 45-minute interview, and it took close to 3 hours. I mean, I would ask Bernard, how's training going? And then he's talking about the weather, and then he's talking about prison, and then he's talking about so I learned when he would take a quick breath, like, and then by the fourth round, he would pause. I would have to jump in and ask him a question, because I mean, it was the longest interview I've ever done, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was Bernard Hopkins, and it was in Philly. We got him running around Philly, and we did the old, running up the steps that Rocky ran on. So, all right, I'm going to see if I can find this. Huh. Yeah, I don't see it. I'll have to find it. So let me play Oscar, and I'm going to look for the Eddie Hearn response on X. Giorgio, you said you sent it to me. I didn't. You sent it on Instagram. I didn't get it, but I will look for it. But let's watch Oscar.
It's time for your favorite part. Part of the week, the only segment in boxing that gives you the facts and makes you laugh. It's Clapback Thursdays. All right.
See, I liked it better when Oscar was just kind of natural. I mean, it's a little, but we'll see. I mean, I'll have to find Eddie Hearns, but let's see what Oscar had to say. And everyone's probably seen this.
Some of my frenemies had a really shitty week, and unfortunately for them, I'm here to unpack all the drama. Let's go. All right, let's start with last weekend's fight in the UK. Anthony Joshua was knocked out in the 5th round by Dubois. It was actually an amazing fight, an entertaining fight, and I like AJ. However, This was another huge L for Eddie Hearn, who is literally 0-11 to Frank Warren this year. This continues the Matchroom curse, meaning if you sign with Matchroom, you're either guaranteed to lose or get injured.
Remember when not long ago, I think on DAZN, they did a sit down, Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya, and they were super respectful. And yeah, we knew that wasn't going to last, but.
To make matters worse, Eddie Hearn faced off with his old buddy Devin Haney in the crowd at Wembley. Eddie, you can't build a fighter to save your life. Anthony Joshua had the world at his fingertips, and you found a way to fumble his career. And speaking of Eddie,
see, he's kind of dry. It was better when he just. I think the first one he just did it like it popped into his head after a long night of reading the Bible or something. You know, it just popped into his head. Now he's kind of rehearsed.
My other buddy Dana White had some high praise for him.
Listen, I like Eddie Hearn very much. Eddie Hearn was at the Sphere fight. He came early before the fight started. I have a great relationship with him. I have a great relationship with the Warrens. Obviously, love Tom Loeffler and his matchmaking and what he does. Yeah, I would probably be.
He sure did lose Canelo.
Working with a lot of people. I'm sure you can assume the people that I would not be working with. I don't think that's. You have to be a fucking genius to figure that one out. But yeah, I like Eddie Hearn a lot and would love to work with Eddie Hearn.
Oh my gosh, Dana, you don't want to work with me? I guess I won't be invited to your circle jerk with Eddie. You realize you will have to pay boxers real money if you want to be in our sport, right? You called the godfather of promoters, Bob Arum, a scumbag and a piece of shit in a press conference last week. Way to start off your Neanderthal path into the world of boxing. And finally, Hall of Famer Shane Mosley Sr. is returning to the ring this weekend at Harrah's in Philly for a celebrity boxing match.
Hey guys, it's Sugar Shane Mosley. Don't miss my return to the ring September 28th.
You look like you just bathed in Diddy's baby oil.
Disgusted.
What the fuck? Shane, you talk so much shit about me. I'm actually gonna rise above it because I feel so bad for you, dude. I want to buy out the arena you're fighting in. Let me know who I can contact so I can make this happen. And by the way, keep my name out of your fucking mouth. Have a great weekend. And remember, folks, you're not a hater when you only speak the facts.
So there you go. There's Eddie. I mean, there's Oscar. Little rehearsed. You know, Oscar's Oscar. I mean, I thought the other ones were fun. It's fun. It's funny to hear him. It's funny to hear him. Let me see if I can get this to play. Oh man, I'm not getting any. All right. It looks like I have. So I have Eddie Hearn's. I have Eddie Hearn's response. So let me let me get this on here. All right. So this is I've not seen this, but this is Eddie Hearn's response to Oscar's clapback Thursday.
Thinking about doing one myself for him because I've got a great impersonation of him, but no, I just do it to the. But if I was doing one today, it was Friday today, right? So it's like I don't know, fuck off Friday. It's like, hey, welcome to fuck off Friday. He does his silly voice, and he goes, he'd go a little bit like this. He'll go. It's the segment of the week where I pretend I'm really happy, but I'm burning inside. Come on, AJ, he's the best build fighter of all time. The golden boy, who have you got left? Canelo's gone. He hates you. He sued you. Jaime Munguia, you pretend you represent him. You don't. He's gone to Top Rank. Virgil Ortiz sold a couple of thousand tickets and Ryan Garcia's banned. And now you're being sued again by Devin Haney. Have a great day. This whole clapback Thursday thing, I was kind of thinking about doing one myself for him.
All right.
Because I've got a great impersonation of him.
That's it. That was pretty funny. That was pretty good. I got to give it to Eddie. That was funny. Although Oscar's first few were kind of funny. This one not so much, but that was Eddie Hearn's response. But anyway, look, that was not the basis of what we're talking about. We're talking about 23 years ago, September 29, 2001, Bernard Hopkins with the just brutal, overwhelming 12th round knockout of Tito Trinidad. So let me get the link in. I did watch the fights Friday night. Man, those things are on late. I was watching the State of Boxing, and it was like 1:30. It was like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, is this a pay-per-view? So I didn't see the whole card, but I saw the end of Shushu. I guess he squeaked by. We'll see if he learned from it. And Xander's eyes look dominant. He looks big, strong. He looked dominant, and then Michaela Mayer won the decision over Ryan. All that was all crazy with the paint. But no big fights Saturday. We got less than 2 weeks before Beterbiev Bivol. But listen, you can see it right there. Definitely click on. We'll talk a little boxing. The Boxing Scholar barely won. Yeah, Shushu. Yeah, Shushu. I mean, all I saw was the highlights, so I didn't see the whole fight. So I can't really speak on the whole fight. But apparently, he had a tough time. It's okay. It's okay. We'll see how he reacts after this. See if he learns, because fighters learn. That's what they do. But I'll tell you, it was always, I don't know, maybe not surprising, kind of surprising that Tito Trinidad never really evolved, because he didn't have to against most of the guys he fought. He had that left hook and a decent right hand, but that left hook. I remember being at the Garden when Roy Jones and Trinidad fight, which was a bizarre fight. I thought there was no way those guys should have fought, but they did. And look who it is coming to the stage. Boxing Scholar.
Yes. What's up, man?
What's up, my friend?
Chilling, man. Chilling, man.
So I'm gonna assume that you saw the Hopkins Trinidad fight 23 years ago. And if you didn't, I know you've seen it. But what do you remember about the buildup and everything going into that fight?
No, I wasn't actually there for the moment, because I'm young-ish, not that young, you know. So I remember being in school and watching it. But I loved boxing then, but not like I do now. Like I would later go to develop a love for it. But I just remember Hopkins being the man. I think this was 2000. So a year after this, Roy Jones would go to get knocked out, and that's when Hopkins really got on the map. Because at the time, Hopkins was a popular fighter, and I knew of him. But Roy was the man. Roy was my favorite fighter. Everything Roy touched. I mean, I remember going to school pretending like I was Roy Jones Jr.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Everything you say about Roy. I mean, Roy Jones was, of all the fighters I've seen in person, like I've never seen anybody like Roy Jones, what he could do. But I don't know. I'm assuming you've seen the fight though since then, right? Hopkins Trinidad, you've seen the fight, or at least highlights,
million
right?
times, yeah.
Right.
Million times already. Yeah. But you know what's crazy? Saying that out loud, I realized that's the mindset I had as a kid is the mindset that people having as an adult with YouTube channels. That's crazy. Because I love boxing, but I had a favorite fighter. Well, I like boxing. I love the fighter more than I love boxing. Now I flipped. And you know what I always use it as an example? Roy Jones. I say, because they always accuse me of being biased. I said, look, brother, after Roy Jones, it stopped hurting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was your guy. So
that was my guy. And, you know, seeing him lose, it was just like anybody could lose.
Man, I felt like I never counted the Montel Griffin. I know he got DQ'd, but whatever. He came back and destroyed him in a round. So when he lost to Tarver, when he got knocked out, he was like Superman, because like nothing, he could do everything in the ring. So when he lost, it was weird. It was like Superman losing. And then I will say, I was with HBO for like the last half of his career. I was in the television trucks working the fight live when he fought Glenn Johnson. And I remember seeing him get knocked out and the way he stiffened up and got knocked out the way he did, it was sad. It was sad to see Roy at the end because he was fighting guys that he literally could beat with one hand, like literally, and seeing him get knocked out. But listen, I'm digressing, but you're right. Like Roy Jones to me was he was incredible, and it really was like shocking when he lost because I didn't think he could ever lose. I didn't count the DQ. I didn't think Roy Jones would ever lose.
Yep. And you know, it's crazy. I always make this argument that if Roy Jones had retired instead of fighting Tarver again, he probably would have been considered the GOAT because he would have had a heavyweight championship belt. He would have had Hopkins on his record, Tarver on his record because he would have beat him, you know, and then he would have had James Toney, and based off of that with the skill set, it would have been kind of hard to argue that he was like because you've never seen him get beat, really,
And
the
you
DQ,
said
but that was some
heavyweight too.
BS.
And you said he had already become heavyweight champ too, right?
Yeah,
because he had beat Ruiz before he beat Tarver. So I'm with you. I mean, if you always wish that, like for us, there's always like the storybook time for a guy to retire, and that would have been it. You know, for Ali after Foreman or whoever, and Sugar Ray Leonard should have stopped after Hagler. It never seems to happen. But yeah, if he would have retired, I mean, he had one loss, and that was a bogus DQ loss. So it would you can still argue him as being, you know, pound for pound the greatest fighter ever. But then, you know, the record. You look at his record, and it saddens me. Like I don't look at his record now because I see all these L's at the end and these KO by, and that's not Roy Jones.
Right, it's like you look at the name, you're like, "Come on, bro." To be honest with you, Roy Jones got robbed by Andy Pettis. That shows you how great Roy was. That he could box a UFC fighter, and they have to steal the decision from him. My friend came up with a conspiracy that they stole it from him because they don't want to see him box anymore. Because if he would have won, he probably would have came back and had 5 more fights.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just, God, it was really depressing. They used to call, he used to have a nickname, which I didn't think was fair, but some people call him Reluctant Roy because there were some guys at 168, Nigel Benn and those guys that were in England. And Roy's like, I'm the best in the world. You come here to fight me. So I never thought he was reluctant, but seeing him at the end of his career getting knocked out by guys, just, I mean, and Roy had some bad knockouts, like face first knockouts. And just really sad. When I was with HBO, I would see Roy all the time because he was a commentator, and I never hung out with him, never became friends with him. But I did get to go on. I went to Pensacola, 2019 or 20. Devin Alexander was being trained by Roy, and I was doing something for Fox. It was like a 24/7 type show. So I got to spend a few days in Pensacola, and I saw him with fighters on the farm, on his farm. Like he has fighters that live on his farm and guys he talks to every day. He hasn't really done much as a trainer because, you know, he knows boxing, but it hasn't translated as a trainer. But it was cool. It's a long-winded story to say I got to spend time with him in Pensacola on his farm, and it was just sad seeing him get knocked out the way he got knocked out in a few of those fights. It was depressing.
Trinidad, you know, beautiful sequence, right? The show Hopkins and the counter for an uppercut is basically a right hand or a hook. I mean, because they're exposed, you gotta sacrifice so much with that uppercut, especially if you follow through with it, right? But this is where fundamentals come into place. You look at that clip. Trinidad throws the left hook. That's the you remember how on Major League when he pointed to the fence? Yeah. That's his home run punch. He's pointing to the fence. It's over. If you look when he throws that hook, Bernard Hopkins got the right hand to protect, and he catches it, and he's not even aware. He thinks it's over. He's already like walking off, like walk off home run, you know. And Bernard Hopkins answers and knocks him down, and it's like a bit of surprise on his face before he pushes him. Of course, hits him with the shot and then pushes him, but it's a look of surprise on Felix's face because he was expecting to land the left hook because it's a natural counter to that punch, and he didn't expect Bernard to get his hand back in place fast enough. So it was a compilation of a bunch of things, you know what I mean? But that's the best part about that knockdown. But I remember one time I watched a video of Nazim Richardson, and he said he was working with Bowie Fischer, and he was like kind of like to help out. And he was like good motivational speaker in the corner. But he said that he took some tapes to Bernard Hopkins, and he told Bernard Hopkins like the key to the fight is the jab. And Bernard Hopkins looked at him like, what the hell? Like, this guy is Felix Trinidad, a jab, you know? But when he showed him on tape, he said Bernard started to buy into it. And he said during the fight, he started to do certain things. And that's when he was like, okay, Nazim might know what he's talking about.
Yeah. The interview, the post-fight interview with Bernard, how he talks about that he knew Trinidad had one punch, left hook, and I learned how to take it away. That's amazing because it's like people would say, I said this before, people would say about Deontay Wilder, people would say, oh, you know, all he's got is a right hand. Well, it worked against most fighters. And all Trinidad was a left hook. Guess what? It worked against most fighters. You had to be special to learn how to make sure that punch didn't detonate. And he did it, man. You're right. He got his hand back, and Bernard also had a great chin. I don't remember him ever being hurt. Well, he was rarely hurt anyway, but I don't remember him being hurt in the fight with Tito. I mean, not one time, unless I'm wrong.
After this fight, you know, he was what, 36 in this fight? 15 years after this fight. And it wasn't like he was just, you know, stumbling around and just getting beat, being a journeyman. He was still a live dog all the way up until the Joe Smith fight.
Yeah, he was.
I remember even when he fought Kovalev, I was like, oh, man, no, B-Hop, no. He did a pretty decent job against Kovalev.
Yeah, and that was when Kovalev was Kovalev. Kovalev, he was the crusher. That's when he was the crusher. And you're right. He went the distance. Yeah, Bernard. But the Smith fight, you know, that kind of sucks to go out like that. But the dude was in his 50s, man. You imagine that? Like, he's fighting in his 50s against a guy who was going to go on to become light heavyweight champion of the world. So, yeah, Bernard was special, man. He really wasn't the most exciting fighter to watch at times. Because, look, I'm very much into the skill of boxing to win fights. But some of his fights, you can talk like you know what you're saying and say, what a boxing exhibition. Some of those fights that Bernard had were hard to watch. But the guy was a great fighter, man. And 23 years ago, tonight was arguably his greatest night. I think I lost Scholar. But yeah, arguably his best night. I don't know what other night, you know, he did. Now, he did have a lot of great nights. He beat Kelly Pavlik after this. He beat Antonio Tarver after this. Never thought he would go up to light heavyweight and be as good as he was. So Scholar, I don't know what happened, but try to come back. Got to get my man Matt in here. Matt likes to brawl in the chats. Once Roy lost his athletic ability, he wasn't nearly as good as he was. It's the fundamentals that make you good. Yeah, but he also had incredible skills. He was just in his prime, at his best. I'll put him against anybody in his weight class. All right, Matt, let's see what else you have to say. And Roy, yeah, we know this. Now, you must not like Roy Jones Jr. What did the great Roy Jones Jr. do to you? And to brag about Roy Jones as a heavyweight by beating John Ruiz is a stretch. First of all, stating a fact. You cannot deny that Roy Jones was a former middleweight champ and a former heavyweight champ. He was. He had a legit belt. It was John Ruiz. That was one of the heavyweight champs. So, sorry, he did what he did. The best thing about Roy Jones that he gives Gerald McCullough's family money. That's a great thing. I don't know if that's the best thing. Well, you know what? You fine. You got this one, Matthew. That if you want to say that because that's a great thing. More people should give to Gerald McClellan. All right, let me see. Scholar. Got you back.
I don't know what happened.
Well, your audio started to drop out, and then you just dropped out.
That was Don King.
Probably. You know, we're talking about. I showed some footage, some DKP footage. You know, really quick. Legendary Nights was a series I worked on when I was at HBO. It was just the greatest fights, and we would do 30-minute docus. We could never do one on Trinidad Hopkins because Don King owns that footage, and he was asking, I don't know what he was asking, but it was like a crazy amount of money. So that's too bad because that fight with all the backstory, I don't think anyone's done a documentary on it, but it really deserves a story because the story around the fight and then the story of the fight where the underdog wins the fight the way he did, it was one of those special nights.
Yeah, you know what's insane about that? Legendary Nights was a dope series, man. They were those. I didn't know you was responsible for that. Good job, man. Those
Well,
were
listen, I'll say this. I worked on all of them. I sent an email to Ross Greenberg, who was heading up HBO, and it was kind of like the running joke, like a PA, because when you're a PA, you're a production assistant. You're at the bottom. So the running joke was a PA came up with the idea. Someone would have come up with the idea, but he never wanted to give me credit for it. So his story was, I was walking to work one day and I just had this idea. But yes, it was a great series. And this fight would have been all these stories, man. Like when you're doing a documentary, it has to be on a story or else you don't have a doc. And there's so many stories for this. But could you imagine how good this fight would have been as a Legendary Nights?
Yeah, that would have been dope. So he hit you with the Bugs Bunny. Oh, that'll never work. And then say your idea right after you say it.
No.
Like we should do Led.
No, they did the idea, but what he wasn't going to do was give credit to a production assistant for coming up with the idea when there's him and all these, big time producers at HBO. So that was my point, that he was never going to say like, oh, a production assistant emailed me. He wasn't going to do that. So he has an ego.
Got you. You know what I was watching the other day, George? I was watching Undisputed, the movie. George, you think about doing movies, bro? That movie was Undisputed 2 sucked. I'm gotta be honest. But the first one, oh my God, that had Larry Merchant in it. It looked like it was loosely based on Mike Tyson's life story, to be honest with you.
What's the actor's name again?
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley. You know what? When you said Undisputed 2, wasn't that not Wesley? Didn't Undisputed 2 have the other dude, the karate guy?
Michael J. White, yeah.
It's funny you bring that up, man, because I think last like Tuesday or Wednesday night, don't ask me why, but I was up to like 1 a.m. watching Undisputed 2.
Was it good? I mean, I couldn't get into it. I couldn't.
It was okay. I mean, those fight scenes, the whole storyline and the acting. I mean, it was okay. It was okay. But you're right, Undisputed. That was him and Ving Rhames, right?
Yes. It's why I say Rocky admitted that he took a bunch of different stories from boxers and just, compiled them all into one story. And that's what they did in Undisputed. That was definitely Mike Tyson, influence Vin Rhames. Because remember, Mike Tyson had something similar with those allegations and Desiree Washington and stuff like that. Yep. And I always wonder, like, did Mike get in a fight in jail and lose and we didn't know about it?
Who knows? Man, it's been a while since I've seen that, but now one of these nights, one night this week, you're gonna make me stay up late when everyone in the house is asleep, and I'm gonna have to watch Undisputed. Undisputed was really good, man, and I'm with you. It definitely had of course it was a Mike Tyson influence, like a thousand. It was like it was his whole story.
The part that sticks out to me is when Larry Merchant is asking him a question in jail. And then I'm like, that's Mike Tyson and his relationship with every reporter who brought that up. I was like, yeah, they did a good job at executing this movie. And then even the Customato like figure that was in jail, you know what I mean, that just knew all about boxing from bare knuckle, and he just knew that Vin Range was gonna get beat, even though he was a knockout artist. That movie was just even the quotes. I was looking at it, and he was like, you know, eventually everybody loses. He was like, you know, if they're having a night, you know, whatever the case may be, I'm having an off night. He just said something that was so simplistic, but I'm like, why fighters don't give interviews like this?
Yeah,
But
I
with them, it's
know.
always an excuse. Oh
I
man,
know.
I ate bubble gum when I was 5 and I swallowed it. It never really got digested.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Like I was told, if don't swallow gum because yeah, it'll stick to your ribs. Like it'll never be digested, and it'll keep sticking to your ribs, and then you'll die because you have gum in your body. You'll die.
And you know what? I did see AJ swallow some gum before his fight with the boss, so now it's all making sense to me.
You, oh man. Now let me say, my buddy here, Matthew, said he was giving me a hard time about Roy because I gave him a hard time about Anthony. He's a big AJ fan. He's a big AJ fan. So that was a tough night for him when Daniel Dubois absolutely tore his behind to shreds. That was a tough night for Matt. So but that's funny, man. I'm gonna have to watch Undisputed again soon. Like I have to now. Because Undisputed 2, I think they made more after that too. They might have made more, but Undisputed was really good, man. And I haven't seen it. It's been a while. But know what? When you brought up Larry Merchant and Mike Tyson, now this is way before I was at HBO. Everybody remembers the story. And if you don't, Mike Tyson was his contract with HBO was up, and he was literally about to re-sign with HBO. And Don King and Mike were on the phone with Ross Greenberg, and they said, "Oh, it's great." Or Seth Abraham, and said, "Oh, it's great. Larry doesn't have to interview Mike anymore. That's awesome that he's not going to do his fights." And they said, "Wait, what?" They wanted Larry Merchant gone, or else they wouldn't resign, and they didn't resign. He went to Showtime. The funny thing is, Tyson and Merchant, like if you like have seen the whole history of him on HBO, they would do these like HBO shows
Yeah,
together where they
the
were
greatest
talking about like
knockouts.
the youngest, like
Yeah.
best heavyweights ever, and they had a friendship. But then at some point, like, and everybody forgets that they got along great, and then everyone remembers how it ended. But you remember what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. And then he went to Don King went to Showtime. Yeah, I remember. He tried to use it as leverage, you know. We'll go to Showtime. Yeah, I'm aware of that. But it's funny you say that because I watched old HBO was the king of documentaries. If you go like all the best documentaries that came about was through HBO. Even the pre-fight, they would show a little bit of that, like give you a history. And you know, this is not the first father-son duo. As a matter of fact, if you go back in history, like that stuff is just we didn't realize what we were getting then until it was gone, man. We don't get none of that. We get Eminem concerts now.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I like Eminem too, but I just didn't want to see that. I don't want to see I don't want to see music during boxing. I was at HBO when they did KO Nation, and that was hip hop and boxing, and some of the shows were really well done. It never caught on. I mean, some people are still trying to do it today. Especially a pay-per-view, like when I'm paying to see a fight and they make you wait 2, 3, 4, 5 hours for the main event, and then you have to watch a concert. Um, I guess that's why I don't pay for fights anymore. But I'm with you. Like the concerts and everything, like that I'm not with that. The whole production value and what you were saying was HBO, because I love the features they would do. Whenever Tyson fought, there'd be like a 5-minute feature on him, and then a 5-minute feature on Biggs or whoever he was fighting. And that made me really like want to see these fighters. And I love the stories. And nobody does that anymore. They don't do anything
Nobody.
like it
They're
anymore.
lazy. They're lazy. Like even when the it's like they don't even prepare for a fight not to go the distance. Like when there's a knockout, you see them like stretching it out and hey, what's your favorite color, audience? We're gonna go to the audience and ask them what their favorite color is. It's like, bro, why are you not prepared? It's just so lazy. But even if I always say that hip hop is always going to be synonymous to me with sports because I feel like athletes want to be rappers and rappers want to be athletes. So if they were going to do something like that, look, I'm not the smartest man in the world, but I would eliminate some of the prelims, you know, and then put Eminem on early. So that way you get people there. Because when I went to the event, it was really, really empty. It was Bud versus Sean Porter. It was empty all the way up until like the co-main. And it's like, why don't you just, if you put Eminem in that slot, they're not going to want to be late for an Eminem concert. So you're going to have a packed arena, and then you could put your other fighters, you know what I mean, all the way up into the main event. But that's just what I would do if they're going to do something like that. Instead of, midnight and then we're seeing Eminem perform and Turkey's just sitting. It's like, bro, look, we all love Eminem, but we came to see the main event. We don't care.
I'm with you. I just don't. Well, they just had the AJ fight. They had the dude, I don't remember his name, but he did like a set before the main event. They're trying something new. To me, it's not working. It doesn't make me turn the fight off because it's a big fight, but I'm right. It gets you frustrated, but then you can't really do anything with your frustration except vent. Liam Gallagher. Okay, thank you, Bruce. But we just vent to each other, I guess, because I think they're still going to try to do it. I mean, Turkey's done it a couple times. Now they're starting to do it in England. So you know how it is. Something they think something's popular, so now everyone's going to start doing it. I'm sure DAZN will start doing it at some point.
You know where I think the where this originated is whenever Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones, because Triller did a card similar to that. Remember they had Snoop Dogg commentating and they had a concert in the middle, and the graphics and the production was really, really good. They felt like it was a success, so they try to recreate it, but it's just like sometimes you can't recreate something. Sometimes something is a comic, you know what I mean? And it should just be marveled at, not duplicated over and over and over, because they're not even doing it effectively. You think they would abandon it when they tried it, it don't stick, but they're like, nah, we need more. It's like, bro, it's not sticking.
Yeah. I mean, people are going to keep trying to be different, I guess. And everybody's worried about doing things a new way. Long time ago, when DAZN first came around, I was interviewing with some clown that's not there anymore for a job, and he didn't realize. I guess I'm not saying like I was with HBO, so DAZN was no HBO. I'll say that. He's telling me, "Oh man, we're gonna do things so different. We're gonna have cameras here and cameras there, and I know you were with HBO, but no offense, like we're gonna do things like really good." And then I saw what they were doing, and it was garbage. And it's got worse since. It was better. The DAZN's production was better in the beginning than it is now. Now they just literally don't care. They don't care if you can see the fight, hear the fight. It's just, yeah, man. It's just different.
You know what's crazy about that, George? I had purchased the VR a while back, right? Maybe been like 2 years, maybe 3. I don't remember. But I purchased the VR, and Showtime had a feature on it where they had the camera that was like right above the ring that could take you all around the ring. And I was like, this is a good ass idea. But they never promoted it or went anywhere with it. It just kind of died. It was like an experimental thing that just stayed in theory mode and never took off. But I remember like watching Deontay Wilder knockout, I think it was Stavern. And I could see the crowd's reaction all the way around. I could see Breeden's reaction and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. That's an experience right there. Like that's something when they talk about, we want to be different, we want to be new, we want to do that. That's some new stuff. That's embracing the technology, keeping the old ways. See, what they try to do is they try to go against the grain in regard of the old ways, which works,
right,
and just make something new. Be the guy to come up with the new stuff. No, just build on what you have. That's something that I felt like could have took off.
Yeah, you're right. And it didn't, because people they're too interested in doing things different. Like different is not always good. Now DAZN, like they just do things, and it's a lot of it production wise is bad. They never embraced like the cool things. I wish I would have seen that VR thing, because I bought an Oculus a couple years ago and I haven't used it in a while, but I don't know if those things are still selling. Like I don't know if it's still a big thing, but yeah, like a VR cam or something, that would be cool.
Yeah, that was dope. I remember that. I was like, man, this is cool. I remember like just it gives you a different experience because some people, everybody can't travel. That would right there cure that right there. You can still get the boxing experience of being there with the VR. I'm like, man, they blew an opportunity in my opinion.
Yeah, that's surprising because I guess my guess is it didn't test well or something. Because if they could have made money on it, they would have. So, but I get your point with the zone with a lot of production today. Everybody wants to do it cheap. They don't want to spend money, and unfortunately, they don't. Not all the best people are usually hired. So, everybody wants to do things cheap, and it shows. It just shows. All right, Scholar. I think we lost him again. Um, but it is. I got my man Bruce. My man Bruce. Let me bring Bruce in real quick. My hour is up, but I gotta have the legend here talk about a legendary night, which was 23 years ago. What's up, brother?
Yeah, George, that definitely was a legendary night, man. At least we forget that was the night that was postponed from the original 9/11, and New York was still in a state of shock at the time. I mean, I was, I saw the planes landing on the tower 3 or 4 weeks before that, and very, very, very heavy fight. I thought Trinidad was going to win. I thought, Don King's tournament. I thought Trinidad was going to breeze through that. And little did I know, B-Hop just shone that night.
What a performance, man. And remember everything he did in the pre-fight, taking the Puerto Rican flag and throwing it down. He did it in Puerto Rico. He did it in New York. Hopkins just went out of his way with the psychological warfare. And then I didn't expect what he did. I like Trinidad. I thought Trinidad was going to win. I liked Hopkins as well, but I didn't see Hopkins doing what he did, and because it was a one-sided fight.
And Trinidad, I think he'd just beaten Joppy.
Yes, in the Garden.
In the Garden, yeah. And the Garden, such a historic place, and even like Friday night that was at the Hulu Theater. And that was, bringing stuff back to the East Coast again. But man,
hey Bruce, do you remember? I know you'll remember this. Well, I think you will. On USA, on Tuesday Night Fights USA, back in 1992, Kevin Kelly and Troy Dorsey. Have you ever seen that fight?
Oh yeah.
I'm working on a doc for that fight. And I interviewed Dorsey in person, interviewed Kevin Kelly about a month ago. But so I don't know when it's going to come out, but there's going to be a doc on that fight, and people didn't see it. Like what? And that was the reason why I brought that up. Is it used to be called the Paramount, and it's now called the theater, but it was in that same little room. For the Kelly Dorsey fight was in the Paramount, which. It was the Felt Forum at one point. It was the Paramount. Then there was the Hulu Theater, and now I think it's just called the theater. But I brought that up because that fight was in the same little Garden.
Yep. And I brought it up earlier. In 1977, on this day, Muhammad Ali's last defense of his title against Ernie Shavers, 15 rounds. And I mean, it's just so much history, Judge. When you go back there, I got to jump in because, man. What's happening today in boxing, it's a shame. I don't want to hear any more about Devin Haney suing Ryan Garcia.
But I'm seeing people doing shows, and you know how everyone's got the thumbnail, and they're all like this, like, and then it's got the headlines like Devin Haney sues Ryan.
Yeah, Judge.
I'm not talking about that stuff.
Yeah, Judge. I don't want to talk to anybody unless they're 50 years or over about boxing anymore.
But you know what though? There's people younger that know it, but now, like, I don't know. It's whatever. It's the YouTube world, and now Devin Haney and the street cred and all this stuff. I just don't care. I don't care either. I like watching it. I'll fall asleep watching some of these panels go on and argue about it. And some people are so animate. I mean, they act like they're representing Devin Haney in court. They're that into it, And I'm like, oh, you must be getting the $900 an hour to stand up for him.
But anyway, George, I know you're always up, my brother. I go see the old timers. It's a pretty cool show that they have on Sunday nights. So how old are you, by the way, George?
55.
Okay, man. You got to be 50 or over to get in there. And Jamel Hackett's always on the panel. We get Tanks people over there. We get his trainers, but it's a pretty cool show, and it's let's see. Let me see if I can think of the name of it. It's called oh God.
What time is it on tonight? Are they on right now?
It starts at 8:00.
Okay.
And it's definitely a good conversation, but
it's alive, right, on YouTube?
It's alive.
I'll check it.
And I don't know why I can't figure it out right now, because he always sends me I'm looking at my email to see if Hardcore Boxing. Yeah, it's Hardcore Boxing. And Google it if you can. I mean, there's a million up there, Hardcore J, but he's got a great panel on Sunday nights, and he always likes a white guy in there. And maybe
I'll have to check it out.
come in there and surprise him with two, but it's pretty cool. And man, George, always a pleasure talking boxing with you, my brother.
All right, my brother. Talk soon, man.
Peace.
Peace. All right, I got to get out of here. I'm 6 minutes over, so hour 6. But you want to talk about Devin Haney suing Ryan Garcia? Have fun. You want to post your thumbnail like this? Haney sues Garcia. That's fine, man. I'm talking about what happened 23 years ago today. The great Bernard Hopkins destroyed Tito Trinidad, knocked him out in the 12th to become the unified middleweight champion of the world. One of the greatest fighters to do it. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe, because you can win gifts like a picture with this guy right here. This is from the HBO offices back in the 2010s. Oscar De La Hoya. So come check that out. All right. Talk some live soon. Less than 2 weeks. We got Better Be Evan Bivol. Have a good Sunday, everybody.